Hey, what's up guys? My name is Apex and Merry Christmas to you if you're watching this. This is my review slash rant about the 4.0 patch Maelstrom. Please note that this is a review of the things I am interested in, as going through the entire patch note would take ages, and many of the things in games such as Miss Marrow, dungeons, etc. doesn't interest me very much. So although I read about it while going through the patch notes, I won't spend time testing it or going over it as it's not important to me. Furthermore, I have not been able to test everything that I do want to test because of the current DDoS attack. This includes the new gemming system and Blood Salt Bay. Those are big things that I do want to test, but I haven't been able to yet, so yeah, they're not in my review. This is therefore a somewhat unfinished review, but I feel I cover the stuff that is the most important to me, except maybe disclosing the two previously mentioned changes. I will be going over both the things I think were good in the changes and the things I thought was bad, as well as offering my suggestion to a fix or improvement of them. First of all, however, I want to address two things that doesn't have to do with the changes made in 4.0, but rather leading up to it and how it was done. Feel free to comment on my video and voice your opinion if you agree or disagree with me in this review. It is my hope someone from Tryon will watch this, hopefully someone with influence, and hopefully they will take what I have to say to mind and take it into consideration if they agree with it and make some changes. Alright, let's get started. The two things I wanted to address first are the patch notes, or rather the release of them, and the DDoS problem plaguing us. The patch notes for 4.0 came less than a day before the patch was released. I personally think that was way too late. The times we have had the times we've had earlier, like before, it would often be a week or so before the actual patch. People could prepare somewhat and also have time to read the changes and get a good understanding of them before the patch came out. With the short time that was given this time, I bet many had work, school, or were otherwise too busy to read it right away. I'd wager many read the patch notes after the patch was out. I think that's really inefficient, and yeah, not being able to prepare for the patch sucks. Now regarding the DDoS attack. First of all, I don't blame Tryon for the DCs we're having these days. However, I blame them for pushing the patch through knowing it was happening. As far as I recall, the DDoS attack started up a day or two before the patch, so Tryon knew that it would probably be a problem after the patch as well. The constant disconnects before the patch made it nearly impossible for us to prepare anything in the one day we had to do that between the patch notes being released and the patch being implemented. After the patch was installed, we all logged in to try things out, but the DCs were still happening, so it ruined the experience for most players. I'm not sure Tryon understands the consequences of this, so let me share my theory. I think all the players that play Archeage and like it here wants the game to do well, and since players quit now and then, as they do in most games, we need to gain more players as well, to not have the player amount become too low. In my experience, big patches such as 4.0 are great opportunities for just this. A big patch gets advertised and talked about. New players will be curious to check out Archeage, inactive players gets tempted to come back and give things another go, and the active players, such as myself, get another incentive to keep playing. All in all, it is a great way to keep the active players and recruit new ones, which is why I think it was so dumb to release the patch now. This is a big disappointment to all three of the groups, and a wasted opportunity to keep old players and get new ones. The active players such as myself were looking forward to try the new content and check out the changes, but my friends and I have been unable to because of the constant DCs. It was bad enough last time this happened several weeks ago, but now we have a new patch and we're unable to play it. There are also several events ongoing we're completely unable to participate in, such as, double everything event and, multiple Christmas events. And this sucks, and I bet even the most active of players reconsider playing Archeage. Personally, I will stay, but I'm not even trying to play until the DDoS is over. Just playing other games until then. In addition to maybe losing a few active players, Archeage is probably not gonna gain any new ones because of this. Inactive players that return to give things another try will be quick to leave when they aren't able to play and try the things 4.0 brought, nor participate in the events. And then there are the new players. If I was gonna check out the game after seeing an advertisement about a patch it was having or whatever, I would not stick around if my first and only impression of the game was that it wasn't even stable enough to play. So in the end, I think launching 4.0 while knowing you are under a DDoS attack was an incredible stupid idea and such a wasted opportunity to keep active players playing and recruit new ones. I hope for the sake of the players that do stick around despite this, try and will do the right thing by first of all extending the ongoing events, so when the DDoS attack stops, the ones who haven't been able to play, like my friends and I, can then take part in those events. And secondly, give us a proper compensation, because the stuff we got after the last DDoS attack was probably the worst I've seen. This is a big patch and a huge part of the player population is unable to play it a week after it launched. This is a big deal. Do the right by the people that stayed and compensate us properly. I'm not hoping to gain from this and become rich or whatever, but at least, show your loyalty or show your appreciation to your loyal players that do stick around after this. Because the few weeks ago when we did have a bunch of DDoS and stuff, it sucks not being able to play the game then, but it sucks so much more not being able to play the game right after a big patch. So and the compensation last time was crap. I'm not being greedy or anything, because usually I am decently happy with the compensations when a lot of other people aren't, so I don't think I'm being greedy, but the last one was really shitty, I think, so give us a proper compensation this time, please. Alright, that covers the late patch notes and DDoS attack, which I do feel is important to talk about, so a lesson can be learned and try and does it differently next time. Now for the good and bad with the 4.0 patch. There's now a new way to set up and join for a raid. This is a function I saw in the previous MMO I played, and although it wasn't used very much there, as we all just continue to use the in-game chat to find group for stuff, I think it's a good idea. I haven't been able to test it much due to little playing, but from my understanding you can set up a raid, specify level requirements, gear, etc., and people can sign up for it. I think it will be easier for pugs to make raids for different stuff, like dungeons. I used to make Serpentis groups before, and it was often hard to organize people, since everyone is online at different times and such. With this tool you could set up several hours in advance, and people who know they have the time available later can then sign up. If this tool works as it should and people actually use it instead of just always use the chat, I think it's a good idea to have something like this in games, so this gets a thumbs up for me. Finally, we can have the effect of the title we think is the best without having the title's name attached to us. You can have the effect of one title, like for me is Desert Fox, but the title name of another one, let's say you think one sounds better, or you could simply not have any title at all, like is what I've gone with here. If you opened your window by pressing C here, you go to where you before picked the title, and to the left you pick which title you want to have displayed, and on the right side you pick the effect. Now I have no title here, but I'll pick one just to show you here how it's done and what it looks like. So yeah, I think it's a change that's long overdue, but I do, however, have a request for a change regarding it. For some reason, the title now shows above a player's name, except instead of next to it like it was before. It used to be Archmeister, and then a line, and then Apex. I used to only have 2 lines over my head a long time ago, being my nickname and my guild name. Then we got multiple player nations on the server, so I had to turn on the options to see that, as I don't know by heart who each player belongs to. That made it 3 lines, and now with the title being above your name instead of next to it, that makes 4. Personally, I dislike having that many lines above my character, and I know other people agree with me, but I think I have the perfect solution for it. In the options and player info, you're able to enable or disable a player's nation, so why not have that same option with the titles? So here you just open option here, and you go to name info, scroll down here, and you have to have either guild or family name, but what is not needed is to display the nation's name, and that's where I think the solution could be at. I think nickname and guild names should be mandatory, but displaying one's nation displaying one's nation isn't. And don't tell me a player's title is more important than a nation. A title holds little to no value, really, so make it an option to enable or disable it the same way as with nations. I think that's the perfect solution. Let people have the titles they want, but let it be my option to disable seeing them, because they don't matter to me, so I want that 4th line removed if possible. This would be an easy fix and such. Since the option already exists, but for nation, and it doesn't give you any advantage or disadvantage, so it should be a completely acceptable change to implement in game. Two interesting changes to us that like our houses and estates. You can now rotate your buildings, although I haven't tried that yet. I wonder if you need to remove all the furniture from it, or it automatically lets you rotate the house with the furniture in it, and it simply moves the furniture. I find that rather unlikely, though. I think it would work as a demolition. I'm just guessing here, but I think it would work like a demolition. So it would send you all the stuff in the mail. If it even allows you to turn the house with furniture in it, it could be you need to take it out before you do it. Another thing a guy like me who cares about his estate is happy about is that lights can be turned on permanently until the player chooses to turn them off himself. I would have preferred it to be the old way, where the lights automatically came on at night, as I don't have a use for the lights to be on during the day. I'm guessing maybe that could cause a lag issue, though, if all the lights in game came on and turned on and off at the same time. If that's the case, I guess this is better, since it's up to the player to turn them on or off, so it won't all happen at the same time. But yeah, if it wasn't a lag issue, I would have preferred it the old way. New tempers better than the best ones we've had before have been added and can be purchased for honor. The RNG of the old warrior medal necklaces has been removed and you can now craft it safely. I would say this is a good change, but I think the amount of honor needed is too much. So it could be a little lower in my opinion. It was going to cost me 110,000 honor to just go up 1 grade on my necklace, going from epic to legendary, and the new tempers are 50,000 honor each. If you want to temper a full set with it, you're looking at around what, half a million honor, and that's with 1 attempt on each. It's less likely to get the higher percentages when tempering, so I think the new tempers here went from, what was it, 115 to 118, so even if it's just 4 different ones you can get, you have a lower chance to get the higher ones. So if you want to go for a full set of 117 or 118 with them, you'll probably need 5 to 10 tries on each piece. At least I need way more than that with my luck, which makes the total honor points needed just astronomical. Tryon did state though that the tempers would be added in RNG crates and loyalty shop in the future. Hopefully that will help take down the price some, because right now I think it's too steep. But it's a good change, but the amount needed is too high in my opinion. A bunch of the mats you got when grinding in the Ironwood library have been made obsolete, and you can now instead convert them into the mats that were kept. This helps free up inventory and warehouse space, which I'm sure many people like. Furthermore, merit badges and warrior medals have also been removed, or rather converted into Guild Stars and honor. Personally, I do like to have less currencies and mats, so this makes my OCD and I happy. Lastly on my list of good changes in this patch, and like I said, I'm just mentioning the ones that are interesting or most important to me. There are several good ones as well that I haven't mentioned, but they weren't too big. But one I think is worth mentioning is that the neutral grounds or safe ground here provided by the trade outlets now allow for the use of movement skills inside of them. This would make it easier to both unload and load ships, which is what happens around the trade outlet. So I think this is a very good change. You know, you can use teleportation, behind enemy lines, shadow step, etc. Backdrop. So yeah, that's a good change. Now for the bad stuff, and I'm bringing this up first, and I think it's the worst choice Tryon did in this patch. From what I heard, they wanted to remove a bunch of the buffs to decrease the power level between players. I don't really mind that, and I heard you could salvage all buffs and get the mats back. That sounded fair. But then it was decided that the old buffs would be kept in game. This is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. If the plan was to decrease the power difference of players, this change instead made it a whole lot worse. What happened was obviously that as soon as this news broke, everyone started stacking up on buffs so they could have them after the patch came. The geared and wealthy players were obviously the winners here, as they could afford to overpay for the buffs, and they stacked up on it for months if not years to come. The less geared and poorer players couldn't afford to do this, so their supply will run out soon if it hasn't already. This will leave the geared and rich players with a massive advantage in the time to come. They will be able to fully buff, while less geared players cannot. The power difference Tryon wanted to decrease has been increased. Is there a solution to this now? I think it would be unfair to those that bought all those pots overpriced if you now reverted back to having those buffs be useless and you'd instead have to salvage them, because you wouldn't get the money back since you overpaid for them. I think an option could be to limit the amount of buffs a player could have on though. at least then they wouldn't be able to put on twice as many buffs as someone that didn't stack up can. But instead they have to decide which ones to pick in a fight. Let's say I really don't know what the amount of buffs you can have now is. Let's say you can have 20 buffs, and the people who stacked up on it has access to the old buffs as well, so they can get close to or have a full 20 buffs, and the people that haven't stacked up on it can't have that because they simply don't have those buffs anymore. So I think if you decrease the total amount of buffs you could have, it would make it a lot more fair, because then then every player would have to choose which buffs they like the best, which ones for the best for them then and there. So they could choose to use the old buffs or the new buffs, or not new buffs, but the ones kept in game, or they could mix and match with them, as could everyone else. And if you gave them a total amount, you need to put the total amount of buffs a player can have not over what a person can have now without using old buffs. Let's say you can today have 10 buffs on you without using the old buffs. Then 10 should be the total amount they should allow, because then everyone would have an even playing field, and the people that paid for the old buffs and stacked up on it, they wouldn't get screwed over, because they could still use those buffs, but they couldn't have them as well as the buffs in game here, or they could mix and match for them, but the total amount of buffs would be the same for every player. So I think that would be the most fair way to do it, honestly. In my opinion, this change shares the top spot along with keeping the old buffs as the dumbest change made in 4.0. Cargo price has been increased by a lot. The tier 2 and tier 3 packs that before cost you roughly 32 gold to buy now cost 49. Let's start with the tier 2 packs. These packs were always supposed to be high risk, high reward packs. Now they're simply high risk, or very high risk packs, but low to medium reward, because the turn-in hasn't changed. You still get the same when you turn it in. You used to be able to turn in for 70 gold, and with a pack that cost 32 gold, that gave you a 38 gold profit a pack. And now you get 18 gold. This means that previously you could be pirated every other time. Let's say you moved 10 packs in a day and you lost 5. You would at least cover your losses and also gain a little bit of profit. With this change in mind, you now would need to successfully run 2.5 pack for every one that gets stolen. I don't think you can either make the argument that the packs were OP before, because 32 gold is a pretty decent risk. It's twice as much as a larder, and it was also highly restricted by the amounts available, as they needed several packs to be procced. Then there was all the competition for them. They weren't OP, and no better ways to make gold with packs. Now with a new buying price of 49 gold, I think the risk is simply too high for the reward it offers. You could run tier 1 packs instead and make the same, if not more gold, with less of the risk. Let me open the map here, just take a quick look. Alright, so I know fertilizer packs from Rokala to any of the 3 trade outlets, or Hustler to Solis, probably also Hustler to Unister, or Vinscore to Unister, would give you roughly the same 18 gold profit you get from tier 2 packs now, and the pack is worth 10 times less to craft, so you're risking way less when you move it. And unlike tier 2 packs, it isn't limited by quantity, so you can run as many as you want. You could ride the ferry, of course, to make the tier 2 pack risk-free, but then you pay 5 gold for protection, so you're looking at a 13 gold profit for a pack that probably takes, 20 minutes to move with the ferry, and you can only move 1 per character. These tier 2 packs that once were high risk, high reward have been completely ruined in my opinion, and the risk is now too high compared to the limited profit you stand to get. I truly hope Trion changes this back, because this is a joke. This is a joke. Now on to tier 3 packs. Charcoal was already really high in value, around 4 gold I think, before the patch. It has now gone up to roughly 5 gold, and I bet it will keep increasing in price. It simply has to. The buying price for the pack went up with like 30-40%, so naturally the thing you get from it, charcoal, should also go up in price. Charcoal was already sky high in price, and the demand was way higher than the supply, and this will only make it worse. The Folio now has a new look and setup, and it's supposedly easier to find stuff. I don't know, I haven't tested it much yet. It could be simpler. It looks nice at least. My problem with it though is that it's the new players that might benefit from it, not the old ones. Old players who have played for a while already knew perfectly well where to find everything they were looking for. Another thing is that the vast majority of this game consists of old players. We don't have many new ones, so the largest group has to suffer here to make it easier for a small group of new players, which doesn't make sense to me. So sure, we will be able to learn it and such, but we had a working system before and we were familiar with it. I think changing it now after all these years is just unnecessary and silly. I prefer the old system back over having to learn a new one. Having Christmas music in the background here. Alright, so I'm not sure I saw this in the patch notes, so not sure if it was a ninja change or something that broke, but when you now open crafting stations, all the categories and subcategories have already been open. They aren't even all open actually. It seems the fourth tier of the sub level of a category. Let's see here. You go from property 1, furniture 2, functional furniture. That's 3, and then storage. That's the 4th. So you see the 4th one is closed. So the 4th tier seems to be unopened. So you have the first 3 open, then the 4th closed for some reason. In my opinion, this looks really messy. I preferred it when they were all closed as a default, and you could pick which category you wanted, then subcategory, etc. Now you open a crafting station and it's filled, since so many are now automatically open. If this was an intended change, at least open all of them, please. Having the first 3 tiers open but the 4th closed just looks stupid. Either that or go back to what it was, which is what I preferred at least. It was all closed and you simply opened the ones you wanted to check out. But now here is all open and to me it just looks messy. Alright, so the merchant ship now has an anchor like we do on galleons, and there's also been some changes to lowering that anchor that I think changes naval combat a fair bit. Before you were able to force a fight by boarding the enemy's ship and lowering the anchor, so your raid could catch up. This has, in my opinion, been made impossible now. First of all, the anchor now takes roughly 15 seconds to be lowered instead of the previous 4 or 5, as I assumed it was. The anchor was always the weakest part of the ship and it had to be protected from boarders, but I see this risk as almost completely gone now. Boarding a ship and lowering the anchor was no easy feat before. You would most likely be boarding a ship with less players than the enemy had on it, so the odds were against you to lower it, as I think it should be. Now, however, with a triple increase, if I'm right about the timer, in time needed to lower it, it's simply not happening anymore. If you board a boat with maybe 2-3 people and try to lower the anchor of a ship with maybe 10 to 15 players on it, you're crazy if you think you will have 15 seconds free to do without being hit by a single stun, trip, fear or other CC effect. The enemy ship would have to be AFK or insanely undergeared to not be able to stop that. like the increase in time wasn't enough though. You can now apparently also be stopped from lowering the anchor by a critical hit. Wow, just wow. Imagine yourself boarding a boat, fighting your way towards the anchor. The enemy is outnumbering you, and there are AoEs everywhere. What do you think the chances are that a single AoE, such as Whirlwind Slash, Wraith, God's Whip, or something, won't hit you with a critical hit? I would say it's close to 0. Combine this with it taking 15 seconds to lower the anchor, 15 sec where a single crit or CC can't hit you, and it should go without saying that lowering the anchor to force a fight is not a thing anymore. You need to sink the ship or wipe the crew. Going for the anchor now is pointless. Is it a good or bad change? It obviously depends on if you are the smaller force running away and having to kite the enemy, or the larger force chasing. I have done plenty of both, so I don't know which I would say I'm more favored to, if this is a good or bad change. But I think this change make anchors pointless, so they might as well remove them from ships, because no one's gonna be lowering them anymore, so might as well remove them in my opinion. Vocation quests now give you less vocation badges when you complete them. I thought it would be fine since you now gain vocation from spending labor, but the amount you get from that is too low to give you back what you lost. And for someone like me who produces a lot of vocation badges, it's a nerf to what I can make. So I would like it back to the old way, unless, you know, Tryon is set on we had too much vocation, or maybe they think that, you know, spending labor gives you enough to warrant what you lost from quests. But for me at least it didn't, so I'm lower on vocation now than before. And now for the final bad thing here on my list. And it's another thing I didn't see in the patch notes, so I'm wondering if it was a ninja change or simply something that broke. So it's a bug now. Usually when you were gonna list something on auction house, let me just pull up something I can list here. Let's see, potion here. It would erase the number that was previously written. Let's see, if I wanted to undercut this and I wanted to remove the 98 and make it 97, I would just click it before and it would automatically highlight the number, so when I then would write something, it would erase it and then put in the new number. But now it doesn't highlight the number when you click it, so you now have to erase what you want and put a new number in it. And it's really annoying because at least several times now when if I wanted to remove gold here, and then I clicked it to remove it and then wrote new numbers, but then that number was already written. So yeah, like I said, I didn't see it in the patch notes. It might have been a ninja change or something, or it's simply something that broke, and I want it back to what it was, because it's not even a matter of what you prefer. It's less efficient, I think. You know, if I wanted to change this 84, I just highlight it before and then write 2 numbers or 1 number, and it would erase it and place a new number. Now you have to actually erase them and then write in what you want. So it's just less efficient, and I would prefer it back to the old way. This was my rant/review of the 4.0 patch notes Maelstrom. Give the video a like if you liked it, and leave a comment if you agree or disagree with what my opinions have been, and feel free to share the video. And you know, I hope some GMs or devs or something will watch this and maybe realize that that makes sense. So they do make some changes, because I think there were some good things in this patch, but there were some things that were really bad. So I hope they really change that. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you around in game. Oh, and Merry Christmas to everyone, because when I'm uploading this, it will most likely be 21st or 22nd of December. So if I don't meet you before that, Merry Christmas, people.